Hello, I just thought I'd do a quick video to introduce our new race car, which is the MARC Generation 1 Ford Focus GTC car. This vehicle is designed and built in Australia from the ground up and is built by a company called Pace Developments, which also does the chassis for all of the V8 supercars, including my previous car, which is what we called Car of the Future from 2013 onwards, and the current generation of supercar which you see racing today. The design brief for these was very clear at the start. It was to build a tubular space frame chassis that could be clad with various different panels of popular road-going cars. So in this case, it was the Ford Focus, which is one of the most popular world market cars that are out there and is manufactured all over the globe. But they also can be clad to look like a Mazda 3, or even one was done in Europe as a BMW 2 Series car. So when you have a look around it, yes, it does look externally and I guess loosely like a Ford Focus, but that's where the similarities essentially start and finish. So let's have a bit of a closer look. So the first thing I'm always asked is what's under the bonnet. In terms of the structure, you'll notice that as mentioned previously, it is a tubular chassis design. So we have a front clip that bolts on here. There's a custom fabricated aluminium section there which everything bolts to, so you've got all of your OE components, which is your headlights, your radiator support panel, the guards, the bonnet, all of that there is all OE and it just bolts on. So the idea is, in the event of a collision, it does actually make it fairly simple and easy, and most importantly reasonably cheap to repair. You'll also note that there's extensive use of carbon fibre, so we've got carbon fibre wheel tubs, the airbox and so forth, a huge aluminium radiator. The engine itself is a Ford Coyote 5 litre all aluminium V8. It does have a dry sump, which is made by Noonan Race Engineering up on the Gold Coast. It's however has been modified, so it's got forged pistons, rods, different camshafts and so on, to not only make more power but to get the reliability with the engine, because it is designed to be able to do two 24-hour races, which would be somewhere between 8,000 to 9,000 kilometres before we'd have to do a rebuild on it. To give you an idea, in comparison to a V8 supercar, that's approximately double what I would get out of the Car of the Future, or in other words, the 16 Bathurst winner that we have here in the workshop. Also, it does have a tilt-on pedal box. You'll see the master cylinders there. You'll note the cantilever shocks, which are made by Murray Coote, which is a very clever innovation, not often seen in a lot of race cars. So you'll see they've got a rocker type suspension setup. If we take a bit of a step back, we will see though that it is very modified. Firstly, it's extremely low. You'll note the carbon composite lower lip, the big air intake, the dive plane and so on there. You've got your toe straps as well for recovery purposes, although we hope that we won't be using those at Bathurst. The engine makes around about 570 horsepower. It is run by a Motec M1 engine management with full data logging. Further look at some of the body modifications over the OE components. One of the most obvious ones, of course, is the huge flare that's on there to accommodate much larger wheels than factory, of course. These run on a Michelin slick tyre. They're exactly the same as what you would find on a Carrera Cup car. You'll see it has an enormous Brembo brake package, 6-piston calipers, 2-piece rotors, very similar in size to a V8 supercar. Also has the familiar centre lock wheel retention system, although you'll note that the wheel nut is a lot smaller than what is on the supercar. Just looking at the rear brakes, they're also made by Brembo, 4-piston in this case on the rear, again 2-piece rotors, enormous for the size of the car. can get some idea too about how wide the flares are to accommodate the huge rubber and wheels that are on the car. That, by the way, is just a travel nut, so that way we can tie it down in the transporter. We obviously replace it with a normal wheel nut when you send it out on the circuit. So let's take a bit of a look inside. As you can see, it's nothing like a road car in any way, shape or form. We've got a one-piece Race Tech seat, which is there with the head halo. It also sits a long way back and inboard, you'll note, which is for driver safety, because all race cars are most vulnerable to side impact for the driver. So you have the big roll cage structure, but yeah, it's also, you sit a long way inboard. We've got the steering wheel off the car and we'll have a look at that shortly. All carbon fibre dash, all your switch gear over there. We've got our tilt-on pedal box. And that's the fuel cell. We'll have a little bit of a look at that. And also, that's not for your beers, that's for the driver cooling. So we've got a cool suit, you plug in and it circulates cold water to keep your core temperature down. Just looking with the rear door open, you'll see towards the bottom of the frame that there's the drink system for the driver. If you have a look at the roll cage structure, you'll see that it's very extensive, but it's not a monocoque type body. It is a complete tubular chassis, which you'll see how it mounts here for the bodywork to just sit over the top. It's all riveted on, so it's only just sitting on the outside of it to make it look like a Ford Focus, but it doesn't form a structural element of the vehicle. So taking a look inside the passenger side, you'll see the fuel cell and the driver cooling box. That's an FIA FT3 cell, which has got a carbon fibre encasement with a carbon bladder inside it for complete safety, so it's not hanging out the back of the car where in a rear collision it could potentially be ruptured. So it's very safe in that regard. If we have a look down there, there's also the onboard fire system, which is what we call the fire bomb. We've also got Bosch Motorsport ABS there. Same as a V8 supercar, we have onboard jacks. There's one at each corner and they're pneumatically operated, so we plug in the spike line and the 4 jacks come out to lift the car in the event of a pit stop. So note the dry brake refueling system, again very similar to what you'd see in V8 supercar. When we remove the boot lid, you'll see that there's not much of the original car left. You can't really put the shopping in there at all. You've got a deformable crash structure there, which is a tubular design, and it hangs off the main roll cage structure. The idea is that it will take a lot of the impact in the event of a rear collision, and it's easily replaced at a circuit. You will also notice that all of the OEM rear beaver, tail lights and so forth all just simply mount off that. And when we have a look inside, you'll see the oil cooler at the back for the transaxle. That's fed by cold air from ducts that are in the rear windows of the car. What's actually quite innovative with the design is that that oil cooler is exactly the same as the engine oil cooler, so you don't have to carry a whole bunch of spare parts and bespoke stuff like you would in a supercar. You'll see the big alloy wing spars that come down, because you'll note how huge the rear wing is for all the downforce, and they're solidly mounted to the chassis down there. You'll also see the rear shocks, which are the Murray Coupe ones. They're a cantilever design, so they sit horizontally. They've got the bump and rebound adjustment. Same idea at the front of the car. Okay, we've just dived inside. As with all race cars, it's pretty cozy and cramped in here. We'll notice when we look up, we've got the carbon fibre roof. That's an option that was only fitted to a limited number of the cars very late in their development. You'll see as we look around towards the back, it's quite busy there. There's the ducting, which has still got to be hooked up to feed the air down to the transaxle. There's our driver cooling the fuel cell. Beside me, our main master switches, or carbon fibre dashboard. Down beside me we have our brake bias, or the balance front to rear, just on a turn cable. And then we've got the steering wheel, which has got the Motec C125 dash display, and a whole bunch of buttons here on the steering wheel, which we'll go through in a sec. This is the master switch panel. And our master on, it primes the fuel pumps. Essentially, turn the ignition on. In order to start the car, we crank it. We have oil pressure. As it happens, turn the pumps to on. Crank it again. Make sure we're oil pressure. Switch ignition on. When we have a look at the steering wheel, it's the Motec C125 dash display. That's on the warm-up page, so you can see you're looking at all of the critical engine functions. Just turn that pump off so we can hear. You've got the engine temperature, the voltage, the battery, we've got the fuel temp, oil pressure of course is 0 because it's not running at the moment, throttle position, transmission temp, fuel pressure, engine oil temperature, manifold air pressure, and the intake air temp. You can then essentially scroll to a race page. So what we can see there is the critical functions that you need to see, how much fuel you've used. It'll read the beacon on the side of the track to be able to give you a very accurate lap time. We can also change our ABS and traction control with the switches on the left. You'll also see that the buttons are illuminated for night time, so cancel the alarms if we get any warnings. They come up red on the bottom of the dash. The high beam indicator for left hand, indicator for right hand. We've got our pit lane speed limiter for 40k an hour. We can flash the headlamps if we've got someone slow in front of us, and that's our radiator torque. Here we push that button to drink. And finally, how do we go about changing gears? Well, you'll see that there's a paddle here which we pull back, that's to change up a gear, and the other paddle you pull back to change down. It is sequential shift 1 through 6, and to select reverse you've got to hold it back with your foot on the clutch. So it's first back to neutral, hold it for reverse, and then it will select reverse. It's a bit tricky. Other than that, that's pretty much it. We would expect somewhere between 275 and 280k an hour down Conrod Straight. So it's an extremely fast car. Will carry plenty of corner speed because of all of the aero on it. So it should be a mega exciting time up there at Bathurst. And yeah, virtually any other circuit in Australia. It's just a whole bunch of fun. Thanks for watching.